Well, the psilocybin, I think it had a powerful effect on clearing out my Maya, my illusions. I think beforehand I didn't really necessarily have a singular direction or a purpose. My energy, I had a lot of energy and infinite amounts of prana, but it was getting thrown all over the place. That became the thing. I switched my addiction almost. And that was my thing, and I started running, and then all of the other things dropped away. My purpose came in.
Welcome to episode 18 of Who on Earth. This one with Leo Oppenheim, who funnily enough I met through Amy Proudfoot in episode 17 on the Sober Social Walk. He was doing breath work, he was doing cold water dipping, he had his hooves out, barefoot walking, and it was like to the point where I was that thoroughly impressed. I thought we've got to get him on the show. And then when I saw him at Temple, which Nikki Cohen, one of the other previous guests and Wizardry had on, I was like, please, come on, let's share some of that wisdom you've got. He's like, I'll do it in December when I get back from my trip to India and all the retreats I've got on. I was like, no, that'll be the next episode. We've got to get what you already know out there first. And he was like, right, and he fit me in. Thank God he did, because it's such an enlightening conversation. Part one of a two-part special, because we managed to hold a conversation, to say the least, where he shows his journey from addiction to a more holistic way of approaching life, barefoot walking, getting your hooves out, cold water dipping, we've got tantra, we've got acroyoga, we've got the importance of purifying your water, just so much that I'm going to let Leo do that part. Now, guys, meditation with Michael. You're struggling. You're finding it hard to hold some overwhelming sensations. They're leading you down paths you don't quite want to go. I've been there. That's why I'm so passionate. So we've got one-to-ones, we've got classes, also recorded if you can't make it, and the floating meditation journeys. Transmute studio, lying in a hammock, cacao ceremony, breathwork, which I know Leo would definitely approve. Then using the thematic storytelling, this one's going to be the Tree of Life at the end of the month on Saturday, the last Saturday of this month. If that's already passed, check out the links, there'll be something new. And any likes, I mean it, likes, shares, and if you want to subscribe, it helps the show grow. We can get more beautiful guests like Leo on. I've got some good ones in line, but you can imagine the more exposure, the more people hear about it. So it's much appreciated. Now, speaking of Transmute a little earlier, here's a few more words about them. You know how much I love me some Transmute. Well, it's a new year, so of course there's new things to tell you about. What new things, Michael? Well, about the African dance classes. Or maybe what would be the reason for the dances. So, DJ lessons. And I can't wait for my own DJ lesson. DJ Moksha coming soon. Keep an eye out. And then we've got Jams Mute. I tell you, bring an instrument, maybe it's even just your voice, maybe you just want to enjoy the atmosphere, but come down to a Jams Mute and just express yourself through that sound. Now, if you might just have something as simple as a birthday or an event, something you want to host yourself, you know, you can rent the room out. It's for hire. And then they've got all the old stuff that they're doing as well, you know, the classics. We've got Mustafa doing his magical drum class with the African drumming, or you want to take care of your fitness, we've got extreme hip hop, or we got the caveman group training. Trust me, they test you. And then we've got the ceremonial ecstatic dance through Arinyani, done by the incredible Wizardry. And that one, the magic that he weaves, my words are pointless. You have to come and experience it. We've even got the sound baths, or if you're Ruben, a sound waterfall. And you know, I like using them hammocks as well. So we've got floating meditation journeys, hammock, meditation, music, take you on a story of epicness, if that's a word. We've even got cacao ceremony before it, and transmorphic breathwork comes in as well, just to make sure you're right in the zone before you even get in that hammock. And then we got the old stuff as well, like workshops with Art of the Cosmos. I went to the grief one where you're allowed to release through TRE or the naturopathic nutrition. The amount of different stuff they've got going on. The only way you're actually going to know is go down to transmutestudio.co.uk and have a little look, because that's where creativity meets awareness and they both play. Okay, brother, when you're ready.
Hi everyone, so my name's Leo Oppenheim and I am on Michael's Who on Earth podcast, and I cannot wait to drop into conversation. Before we do that though, maybe we can do some breath work.
I think it all be fitting.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so I'm a breathwork facilitator, and what we're going to do very, very simply is just drop into 2 minutes of circular breathing, also known as conscious connective breath, also known as holotropic breathing. It has many different names. Now, what you're doing here, very, very simply, is you're taking a rhythmical breath pattern. You are really focusing on breathing deep into the belly. And because we're only going to do this for 2 minutes, we're going to be taking a closed mouth inhale and an open mouth exhale. So it sounds like... Now, if you're pregnant or you have PTSD, just breathe in and out through the nose. This is called circular breathing because there's no pause at the top or the bottom of the breath. We'll take 2 minutes of this breath. Maybe Michael can give me a thumbs up when we've done 2 minutes. Beautiful. And then we'll take a little breath retention and hold the breath. And I'll just talk you through a little meditation when we're there. So,
Okay, guys.
let's begin. Find a comfortable seated position. This can be kneeling, legs crossed. Whatever works for you here that allows for an upright spine. Let the crown of the head reach up towards the ceiling. Let the shoulders draw down the back. Take a soft and full inhalation here. And a clearing, open mouth exhale. One more of these, breathing in fully and completely. Letting it go. So we begin. Our breath pattern will be inhale, exhale, rising, falling. And with every single inhalation you take, create space. And with every single exhalation you take, relax the face, the jaw and the shoulders. This rhythmical pattern, this circular breath. Last three, in fully, release. Big breath in, big breath out. Last one, take a deep and full breath in. Sip in a little bit more air. Sip in a little bit more air. And just hold at the top of the breath here with no tension. No tension, this retention. Allow the face to relax, the jaw to relax. You feel the desire to breathe at any point, you can gently swallow or perhaps sip in a little bit of air, but drop into this physical body. Become aware of the tips of the toes to the tip of your nose, from the crown of the head to the extremities of the fingers. Witness the energetic layer on the skin and within. Any thoughts that move through merely like passing clouds. Any emotions you feel, embrace, embody all your emotions. Holding here for another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Take a soft and full breath in. Clearing open mouth exhale. Just Become aware of this present moment. Come back to the breath. Keep this peace and equanimity you've cultivated, and gently begin to draw your eyes open and come back into this space. Well, that was fun.
Beautiful, mate.
Thank you, my bro. Let me move my little tingly. This is a beautiful thing, by the way, this chime. Oh, so nice.
Do you know, when I first started doing breathwork, it was from Wim Hof, of course.
Yes.
And my partner Isabella showed it me, and I've noticed the more skillful I got with, I started hearing that sound, but within myself. It's almost as if the cells are all bouncing off each other, energized, and it's like this trickling of diamonds within myself, and it's beautiful. I almost get excited when it happens.
It's so powerful. I mean, you know, really on a scientific level, what you're doing when you're taking circular breathing is you're changing the oxygen carbon dioxide balance, and you're oxygenating the blood in the body. But it's my personal belief that you're really almost charging the body with, regardless of Western or Eastern medicine, chi, prana, life force, electric current. And people, a lot of the time, they get this, you must have had the tetany sensation in you know, maybe you had some tingles if you were listening then in the fingers and the toes. When you do longer sessions, it becomes more prevalent. I believe that this is a cultivation of energy within the body. And when you get the gentle cramping sensations within the body, I believe that that is little blocks in your fascial net or your meridian lines. What's really interesting is the fascial net. They dissected it about 15 years ago intricately, and they found that there was a 95% correlation between the muscle fascia and the meridian line theory in Chinese medicine. So for me, when you're talking about fascia or meridian lines, you're talking about the same thing, just using different language.
Love it.
And your emotions lie in your fascia. It's my firm belief that we can do all the talking therapy, and we're very good at that in the Western world. We're great at talking therapy. The somatics gets neglected. The shaking, feeling emotions and expressing them through sound, you know, holotropic breathwork, all of these modalities, ecstatic dance, you know, they get neglected by a lot of people, and you can articulate on an intellectual level all of the emotions in the world, but they can still be held in your body.
Do you know what was a revelation to me? I was working with a master medicine, and I've got this part of me that didn't like how I felt, no shock, and it's going almost to like this unseen God. What do you want me to do? And then all of a sudden it went, you can't think your way out of a feeling. And then it was like, the answer was, well, what am I meant to do then? And it was like, almost this invisible face went, what do you think? And it was like, you've got to feel it. And that can't be done through talking. That can't be done by thinking. It's by feeling. Now, I'm sure we could do this all day, but it's who on earth is Leo Oppenheim? So I always start the show with, where is it that you've come from? What was it like growing up? Where is it that Leo comes from?
Okay, so I mean, I was born in central Manchester, but I lived in and around Macclesfield in the countryside when I was a bit younger, and then in Macclesfield when I was a young teenager. Was blessed enough that my father did everything he could and struggled financially to put myself and my other brothers through private education. I was never invested in my education. I was not fitting into that system really, and I was smoking cannabis from the age of 13 to 23 every single day. I was selling it when I was 18. I was selling other drugs when I was 18. I was really in I would say in the different layers, the koshas of yoga, the physical, energetic, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. I was very much in my physical layer, and everything was physically embodied in what I did, and my defense mechanisms were also physical, to shut myself off from my emotions and any vulnerabilities. And I definitely did that through smoking. And my private education, it was so interesting. The second year of my A-levels, in about the last 2 or 3 months, just before that, I took LSD. And I remember I've had a voice in my head speak to me a few times. This was one of the times. I was sat in a field. It was a beautiful experience that whole evening. But I was sat in a field at 4 a.m, and the sun was coming up, and a voice in my head said, everything's changed. And I really started to find my purpose after that point. It rewired something in me. And what was so interesting was I had zero interest in my education apart from English. My English teacher knew that I was smoking cannabis all the time. He knew that, but I was really invested in the creative part of that. And I think that my energy lay in different things outside of the normal structure, and I definitely had ADHD for sure. Well, you know, I see it as a superpower anyway, and I wasn't labelled because I'm 40 now, but
40, by the way, for those who are watching, can you believe that he just said, if you don't believe what he's doing working,
stand on your head a lot, it helps, but yeah, no, I am 40, and but what was so interesting is suddenly I wanted to know everything.
Okay.
All of those subjects like economics and business studies, which I've not had zero interest in before, and I was coasting. I wanted to know everything. I was putting my hand up in class. I was suddenly, and I did a personal training qualification a few years after that, and I'd never been so studious and dedicated to study at all in my whole life, and I was all in that.
So what do you think it was that caused that shift?
Well, the psilocybin, I think it had a powerful effect on clearing out my maya, my illusions. I think beforehand I didn't really necessarily have a singular direction or a purpose. My energy, I had a lot of energy and infinite amounts of prana, but it was getting thrown all over the place in just, I remember I used to play squash, and I would win basically through my fitness and my power and my speed, but no technique or no brain. And I came off the squash court once, and one of the old guys at the squash club that watched all the matches, and I'd won my match, and he came up to me and he said, "You're like a nuclear bomb, you are." And I was like, "Oh, right, what do you mean?" He said, "All the power, none of the responsibility," and walked off. And at the same time, a few months after that, a guy said to me, that was at a movement centre in Manchester, I can't remember what it was called now, it's closed down, but he said, "You're all the yang and none of the yin." And I remember that those two people said those two things within close proximity. So there was always that awareness that, I mean, there wasn't really an awareness there, but there was a subconscious happening there of an unlocking. But I was in all my yang, all my masculine. My mum left when I was 13, and you know, bless her, she's beautiful, and she didn't like leave and never speak to me again. She left our family home. And I think when that happened, I really prioritized her wellness as a mask for me dealing with that abandonment wound. And then as a result of that, and then being in a house with my dad and my other brother, and it being one of my brothers, and it being a very masculine, very shouting yang household, it kind of switched me off away from my feminine and my yin energy in some ways. But then I automatically had lots of female friends after that as a replacement, but I never really embodied it in myself.
I can relate. I find it very hard when you're speaking right now not to go, me too, the weed, the yang, the ADHD, all these things. So, oh, by the way, just for those who aren't aware, psilocybin is the substance that's in magic mushrooms.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, thank you.
So you've had this shift now. You've got
massive.
Is the weed abuse still happening?
No, so it was really interesting. I had that, and then I was still smoking cannabis, but I immediately stopped taking hard drugs after that.
Okay.
And then,
so it wasn't just cannabis?
Oh, well, it was cannabis from the age of 13 to 23.
Okay.
This experience with LSD happened when I was 22. From about the age of 17 to 22, I was taking a lot of other hard drugs. I was taking cocaine, ecstasy, but then it was the LSD that really had this shift. And then that happened, and I started getting really into being studious, and my A-levels were coming up, and the people that I was associated with that were doing all of these things all the time, I was like, I'm going to be studious. And then they kind of would come into, because they were friends with my older brother as well,
Okay.
they'd come and knock on and like come and chat to me for a bit, and then they'd go upstairs and, you know, they'd be getting on with whatever they were doing. And I was like, right, I'm going to take a break from this. And then it became really apparent that they're beautiful people, but something had changed. And actually my relationship and my friendship with a lot of the people around at that time was based on more circumstantial, of we're on this journey together. We're all, when you're young and you're exploring all of these kind of things, you have your sort of collective that you do it with.
Yeah.
But then when you remove that, actually there wasn't as much alignment. And what was really interesting, they kind of stopped knocking on as much. And I noticed that, they're not as interested in spending time with me. But then in turn, what happened was I was still smoking cannabis, and I was attached to it. And then I got into running.
Okay.
And I realized with my running, I was like, actually, this is something that's quite natural for me. And that was my first, I think, pathway to meditation, because what people don't realize when they're running is that they're circular breathing. And they're circular breathing often with their steps in rhythm. So there is an entrainment of the conscious mind, and it is a deep form of meditation. It's just a more yang and active meditation. And what I started to realize was that I couldn't perform well with my running as much as I wanted to, with the lungs as they were. And so whenever I felt like smoking, I would go for a 7-mile run instead. And I lived in Macclesfield, and there's a place called Teg's Nose, and you kind of go down to the bottom of Macclesfield, and then you go up into Langley, and then you go up this beautiful mount, like near enough, it's a massive hill, but it feels like a mountain. And that became the thing. I switched my addiction almost. And that was my thing when I started running. And then all of the other things dropped away. My purpose came in. I was teaching for another guy doing roller disco companies. I was a professional rollerblader at the time, as well as a squash player, which there's a lot of information. There's a lot of different things happening. You know, from the age of 13, I got a pair of skates on my 13th birthday, and that became my purpose, to really explore my physical body through that. And then when I was supposed to go to university, incidentally, after this trip, this LSD, one of the things that came in, a voice that came in my head again after saying everything's changed, another thing it said, everyone was going, right, you've got to go to university, what courses do you want to do, what's the thing that you're passionate about? And I remember saying to my parents and my brothers, I'm not going to go to university, I'm going to be a professional rollerblader. And they thought I was crazy.
I was going to say, they didn't meet that with well done.
No, because from their perspective, there was no career opportunity. And they were right at the time. There was no roller discos in Macclesfield. The streets were all cobbled. Nobody rollerbladed. And then I decided on that and planted that intention into the universe. And it was unbelievable. I did a skating qualification. I came back up to Manchester, and put my middle brother designed this cute little flyer. Hi, my name's Leo Oppenheim. I do skating instructing lessons. This is my company. And I put it in the newsagents. 2 days later, Cheshire East Council rings me. Oh, there's a man who had loads of roller discos in Birmingham. He's finished there and he's moving to Macclesfield and starting a roller disco, and he needs skate instructors. Worked with him for 7 years. We created 14 roller discos in leisure centres. I did all of the teaching programs. He was the business side of it. And then that led me to have my own roller disco business, which I had for 7 years. And I had 1.7 roller discos in different leisure centres. I was working at the weekends, and that was earning me an amazing living. But more importantly, I was getting to connect with loads of children, to empower them, to illuminate the power that lies within them. And that that happened. And then Cheshire East Council went, we'd love you to be a youth fitness instructor. They paid for my qualification with a company called Shock. I became a youth fitness instructor. Shock then headhunted me and asked me to become their master balance board instructor and qualify other instructors.
I remember you being on the balance board at Temple.
Yeah.
It's so but when you get past that fear of I can't do this, me and my friend Joe, we just couldn't get off it.
It's a meditation.
It's beautiful.
It's an active meditation.
The body just adjusts. It understands, and after that, it's fun now.
And that, incidentally, before I started teaching yoga, I was working at a yoga studio doing balance boarding, but from a place of mindfulness and meditation. And that's what gave me my first into a yoga studio. So the balance boarding, slacklining came in off that. But then also Cheshire East Council said to me, oh, there's a government grant for people who haven't gone to university that's a level 2 and 3 personal training worth £8,000. And so then I got that grant for my personal training, which led me into fitness, which then led me into yoga. And all of that trajectory came from that one point when I said, I want to be a professional rollerblader. Incidentally, I did become a professional rollerblader. I got sponsored by this amazing company called Seba in France. I was their team manager for a few years, and I competed and did all of those things. But my initial, I want to be a professional rollerblader, I went with that. And your dharma, your purpose can change, but that was the initial direction. And yeah, like I could have been doing that as a profession, but then it led into the roller discos, the instructing. And actually, when you plant a seed of intention and then you let go of the outcome and just allow it to unfold, and then you don't get so stuck in the yang control element of, no, this is exactly what it should have been, and rather you see...
You release the expectation, don't you? You just embrace reality as it, but you use the desire, the intention as your guidance system.
Yeah. And then your purpose can shift.
Of course it can.
It's a
You're not going to be
vehicle.
the same person your whole life. That's unless you're resisting the law of Dharma and Nietzsche, all that must change. You're meant to change.
And that's it, you are. And I genuinely think I've had at least 4 deaths in my life.
At least.
Yeah, at least.
From what you're saying, like you've gone from weed to then rollerblading, to then having these discos, to then having this yoga instructor, and we're not even got on to where you are now.
All the while I was also working on the race course as a bookmaker from the age of 13 to 33. So my family business was bookmaking, and you'll know because you had a job in sales and you.
Well, my dad was a bookkeeper as well.
Oh really? Yeah, what, a bookmaker?
He basically worked at the bookies.
Oh
so
wow!
That's what he did. Yeah.
So interesting. But for me, my dad's dad started it, and it was illegal at first, and they had runners running around pubs and everything, and then the race courses opened.
Bit of Peaky Blinders going on.
Yeah, and then the race courses opened, and it was priority of first come gets the best pitch, and that's how it worked. It worked on seniority, and it doesn't work like that these days. But from the age of 13, I was working on the race course, handing out change. I then learned to do the clerking and the bookmaking, so all the figures in the background. And then I was doing that, but also standing up at the front and speaking to people and, in a suit, talking to people, communicating with people. At the same time, I was doing that at roller discos, working with families and their kids.
So your people skills, your socialising skills, because that's what I found by sales.
Yeah.
I actually was the shy kid. I didn't even go out. I didn't really have a friend group until I was about 14.
Yeah.
So when I started doing the sales, it's like you have to become a people person if you want to be able to survive and afford to do what you need to do. So yes, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't align with what mattered to me, selling something that didn't align with me. Like we were speaking before, that sales part of myself is still there because I'm going, but now it's about my purpose, my loves, my passions. It's not about me though, it's about you. So
no, but I resonate with that, and what it is, it's this idea, right, that we go, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, or that was a mistake. No, everything that you do in your life, even if you go into a job and it doesn't satiate you and nourish you, somewhere there is a purpose for it. And all of these little building blocks, if you have faith, if you let go of control, if you allow, if you know when it's time to unfurl, if you know when it's time to untether them from things, let go and go, okay, unfortunately our society creates a real pressure on people to stay in the things that they're doing even if it's not serving them. And in yoga they talk about sthira sukha asanam on the mat. So when you're practicing on the mat, it means effort with ease in the pose, or steadiness with sweetness. And what it is the body will be under duress, but it's under the amount of duress where you can still breathe calmly. And
not 100%.
Yeah, not 100%, because I learned, it took me 1.25 years of practicing yoga to learn that.
You're a bit like me where you go full
110% in, and I was going to hot yoga classes and sweating to the point that the instructor had to give me a mop at the end of class to mop around my mat because there was a pool of sweat. And like they talk, like Dharma Mitra, this guy up on here, he says like when you sweat in a yoga class, you're burning the karma from your previous life, which I really love. But I had to learn that. And actually when you are doing yoga and you're going 110%, I think it's called the Golgi reflex, is a reflex in your body that actually tenses the body up because it thinks it's going to get injured. And so you are putting stress into your body. Now, the beautiful thing about yoga, about cold water, about a lot of these practices, they're a form of vagal toning. So if you're in a yoga posture and you're holding an isometric contraction, you're under duress, the body is in that place of duress, and then you are programming yourself to be calm and breathe under that duress. Even if you just go to yoga for the physical practice, suddenly you'll find you're less reactive in the rest of your life. Suddenly a road rage incident will happen where someone winds down their window and swears at you, and it would normally make you jump, and you don't jump or react in the same way. And suddenly there's this space where you have a choice, where it isn't just, I'm going to wind in, it's...
And choice is freedom. Expecting everything around you to be perfect, finger quotes for those people who can't see it, it's futile, it's just going to cause you to go crazy.
Yeah.
You choose how you react. And that's where the actual power comes. That's what the meditation practice has helped me. So, because meditation is actually returning to that part of you that was never born, never dies. It is not something that can be destroyed by circumstance. And therefore, observe, allow that anicca, allow it to change, allow it to pass. fully witness. Don't just detach as if it's not real, as if it's not you. It is the Leo character is experiencing that, and that's what you're manifesting as. So I'm mindful that
that's nectar right there, brother. Those words. I was just sitting and receiving those words, because often I talk a lot, but it's nice to just sit and receive your wisdom too, because you know, you're a beautiful, powerful meditation teacher, and I can feel it's your passion. And it's interesting, right? These backgrounds, for instance, with sales or with bookmaking, that I could go, oh, you know, there came a time, interesting, let me just quickly, little digression, with the bookmaking, another thing, I started doing yoga, and I got onto the race course one day, my Rochester race course, fully suited and booted, the summer meetings, the one I normally love the most, everything set up, pitch up, stood up on there. Something in my head said, you don't belong here anymore. And it wasn't a judgment of other people, it just didn't sit right. Didn't resonate. And anyway, my dad wanted me to take over that business. We had like 7 different pitches, you know, they were worth a lot of money. And I was like, I can't, this isn't my purpose anymore. I can't do this alongside everything else. And I remember having the conversation with him, and he was, I think, really upset initially, because that was our family business that had been passed down through our lineage. And then he went, okay, right, well, I guess I'm going to have to sell these pitches. He made a decision to sell the pitches. And then it was, you know, a few months later, COVID happened, and the pitch values plummeted, and he would have lost everything. He'd have lost everything. So I know that my purpose put me, okay, it wasn't my purpose, but the way it landed at that very specific time.
It's like, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
How many coincidences until it starts becoming synchronicities? How many times can we just ignore the fact that the universe is skillfully leading us on that path? And that's where something in myself really can let go of that control, that yang energy that we were speaking about, because it's not just me.
Yeah.
There is something. And if I just trust, it's that faith element,
yes,
which I used to scoff at, because I used to be in a Christian school, St. Michael's, funny enough, and that would be all about, like, do it this way, and I just hated it, so I vilified religion. But when I started learning from this laughing yogi in the mountains of Toowoomba in Australia, he taught me that spirituality and religion are not the same thing. You know, you are just a spiritual being having a human experience, and you can trust. It's okay to trust.
Yeah. You know what I think's beautiful as well, though? I feel like all of the religions, you strip back the human judgment of them all, and you strip back all of the strict teachings that come from a place of scarcity, and they're all saying the same thing.
It's the same thing, and if, like you said earlier on in the conversation, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But some people need it said that way, some need it saying that way. Yeah. And it's like you said, the scarcity, also maybe a bit of controlling and manipulation inspired with that. So with yourself, let's make sure we stay on track then. So we digressed a little bit.
5-hour podcast.
I think we could easily manage that, couldn't we?
No problem.
We've now decided our purpose is not lying in that area that you've now left. So what do we do next?
Oh, so where are we now? Are we...
So you've said that we've gone on our little being a roller skating
instructor, rollerblade, roller discos,
you've started
PT.
doing yoga, you've started doing PTing. What happens from them, brother?
So the running came in, and then the running led me into working with a nutrition company, and I was doing a bit of natural bodybuilding with a natural bodybuilder that was a competitor called Lewis, who was a beautiful guy, actually, amazing, really mindful character. But I was doing all of these weights, getting really into that, but then that kind of affected my body's ability to move. And then I remember a friend took me to a yoga class, and I'll come to this yoga class with this guy, Andrew, and based in Macclesfield, this guy, I think he might still teach sometimes, but he's part Tai Chi, part yoga, and he combined them really beautifully and interestingly. We were doing Tao orbit of breath for 5-10 minutes at the start of every practice. But I got into that yoga space, bearing in mind that at the time I thought I was a professional athlete. And yeah, you know, semi-professional squash player playing high-level squash, professional athlete, everything was about movement, about fitness, about exercise. I was doing half marathons competitively, you know, really into it. Got to that yoga class, sat down, he said, sit with your legs crossed. Couldn't really do that. He gave me a yoga block, one of those thick yoga blocks. He gave me another yoga block. And then he gave me another yoga block. So I was on 3 thick yoga blocks. My knees were up at my ears still. My spine was still rolled forwards from the skating and squash, and I couldn't breathe. And then I went through that yoga class, and the first downwards facing dog we did, I was shaking like a leaf and sweating profusely. It was probably one of the hardest feeling shapes I'd ever been in my life. And I looked to my right, and there was this 70-year-old woman, and she was just in this perfect upside down V. But I could see she was so peaceful, and I could see effortless, and I could see her belly and this breath flowing. And that was a real epiphany moment for me. And I'm someone that I'm someone that's always ready to learn, and I'm somebody that I know the more that I know, the more I know nothing. And I'm always open and receptive, and the people that have inspired me in my life are people that are amazing, powerful. For instance, Dharma Mitra, a good example, powerful, incredible human, and he...
For those who can't see.
This guy, who is now 84, incidentally. If you're ever in New York, he has an ashram there. And he's been teaching yoga for, I think, about 56 years now, and I learned the Dharma yoga from him, which is a certain specific kind of yoga. And the principle of it is you devote your postures and your practice out to someone or something else to take away your attachment of the practice, but also to just send that energy out in bhakti, in devotion, in seva, and service. But yeah, he is a prime example of someone that I'm very inspired by, because amazingly powerful, but super humble. You know, we were on that training, 2 Chinese guys said, Dharma, you know, please bless our beads. Pah! Bless your own beads. I'm just a conduit of the practice. And he walks off with his in a funny old man way. And he would facilitate 2-hour practices with us where it was the strongest practice you've ever experienced one moment, and there was so much tapas, so much discipline, so much drishti, so focused. And then he'd go, okay, great, now we're going to do some acroyoga. Leo, come over here, base for me. He brought acroyoga to the West.
Yeah, acroyoga is when I first saw you.
Yeah.
You're doing these shapes.
Yeah.
I'm just going, I'm almost like in disbelief of what you're able to do.
Yeah.
Like that effortless again. Sorry, that's when
No.
I first ever saw you.
Not at all.
I knew you more from your movement than I did from your voice.
Yeah, because I've got a multitude of movement backgrounds. Basically, whenever I love something, I go, how can I share this with others? That's for me. Whenever I love something, how can I share this with others? And my deep principle as well is when I'm having a conversation with someone, I don't even do it consciously, it happens subconsciously. When I feel an energy change where somebody's really passionate about something or something's coming up, I illuminate it for them. And it's not me doing anything, it's me just being a mirror and going, oh wow, I see that in you. You know, the amount of times I've had conversations with people and they're talking to me about yoga, and I can see that they're not just going for the as a practitioner, there's more. I can see that there's a part of them, there's a seed in there that really wants to share that and facilitate, and they have that beautiful empathy and that way of holding space and articulating. And I go, oh, you know, when are you going to be a yoga teacher? Oh no, I'm not ready.
Do that.
Don't be silly, I'm not ready. And then
you'll never be ready.
You'll never be ready.
There's always more you could learn, like you said. The more I learn, the more I know I do not. And then it's just trusting in yourself. You know more than the general public do.
Yeah.
Go teach them first and then develop and maybe advance. Sorry, I totally took you away from what you were saying.
It's okay, this is great. I love going off on tangents. And it's that thing of not playing small. Right, stop playing small within yourself. You have limitless potential within you. If you are passionate about something, you love something, turn it into something. Let it become something. Don't neglect watering those seeds in the soil because you think you're not enough, because that is an illusion.
Are you tired of feeling run down? Maybe you're struggling with some sort of health condition, or it could be as simple as you're not reaching your fullest potential. Well, I found a solution. Isabella Nutrition's here to transform your life, show you the incredible healing power of nature. Let me just introduce to you Isabella Bradford Johnson, a skilled naturopathic nutritionist with a passion for showing you how to achieve optimum health, well-being, with tailor-made nutrition and lifestyle plans. She'll show you how to fill your life with vitality, renewed energy. Now, Isabella firmly believes that your body holds the key to your healing. She just wants to show you how to unlock it. Through the power of lifestyle and diet changes, Isabella will show you how to heal from within. Be that best version of yourself. Now, whether you're looking to improve your overall health or target a specific area, maybe it's gut or hormonal issues where she specialises, Isabella will have expert guidance and support to show you how to have a future filled with joy. Now, it's not about quick fixes, short-term solutions. No, it's about long-term transformation, sustainable results. So stop waiting to take care of your health. Go down to www.isabellabradfordjohnsonnutritionist.uk. Book a consultation with Isabella today. Embark on a journey filled with health, vitality, lasting well-being. Isabella Nutrition, empowering you to live your healthiest life.
You've got one life. That was when I made the decision. I had this moment where I could go into this great real estate job, and it screamed at everything that I hated. And I was going to do it out of fear that I couldn't pay my bills, and I just said no.
Yeah.
I just said no. I said, I'm going to teach meditation. I'm also writing a book. And I decided my purpose. Gabor Mate speaks about connection to self, connection to others, connection to nature, but also connection to purpose. Because then your why can't be defeated by what. If you've got no why, the what wins anyway. Whether it's tiredness or whether it's just not doubting yourself, whatever it is. So then the purpose comes in. What is the purpose? I want to alleviate suffering within myself so that I can show others how to do it. Why? Because I want you to all enjoy this beautiful experience, this joyful experience it can be. Because I know how it can be when it's not that way. But I have to do that for myself. It's a selfish selflessness.
Well, the thing is, there's always the selfish selflessness, but the reality of it is there is a selfish that is in contraction, that is purely based on the singular, and then there is a selfish that is understanding that we are a collective consciousness. And, you know, I do everything I do. I don't expect anything or even think about anything in return for what I'm doing. And that's actually been work for me. We were talking earlier before the podcast started about learning to receive. You know, I'm going to India on Sunday for basically a year. I've got two month stints where I'm doing retreats and festivals and events. But apart from that, I am traveling. And I'm starting in India. Maybe in the middle part of the year, I'll be in India. Maybe in Guatemala, Peru, Mexico, working into the shamanism side of things. I'm allowing it to be open, but the main intention, the fundamental intention from I am learning to receive. I'm allowing myself to receive, and I'm stepping into that path of learning to receive and yielding to that yin energy of faith and untethering from all of the things that create my identity of who I am. You know, this is, you know, my current identity that is now shifting, that you know, I left a head of yoga role at Block in December.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
And I love Block, it's amazing.
Shout out to Block, by the way.
Big shout out to Block, and if you are based in Manchester or London, do check it out, especially if you're based in Manchester, because that team,
that's when me and Craig first started bonding. We went for tea and to do a bit of yoga, but it was with, you know, Melda?
Yes.
And I'm a meditation teacher, not a yoga teacher, and she does like this power yoga, or I don't know how you describe it.
Myofascial training.
It's fantastic, but it wasn't base level.
Oh, no. Like her yoga practice that she does. What's really interesting though, if you, like when you first go to it, it's a bit of a shock to the system.
Yes, it was.
But if you come away from the idea of being good or bad at it, and you drop consistently into a practice with her, wow.
I enjoyed the challenge, to be honest, and afterwards...
How long ago was that?
It was just after the Garden Festival with Temple. So
she's been on a bit of a journey.
She had an issue with the wrist.
Wow, yeah. A thing with her wrist that was a 1 in a million that actually... she was told by the doctors that she'd lose the use of that hand, and that her other hand she'd potentially lose the use of it in about 12 months. It was like, in a few months you'll lose the use of your right hand, and in about 12 months you'll probably lose the use of your left hand. And that's what got her into the Joe Dispenza side of things. And if you go to a practice that she facilitates now, you might find it's different. There'll still be all of the physical attributes, but the way she layers in the power of intention, and how it is my firm belief, right, that we are all pieces of creation, but within ourselves we are creators. And that when we are in alignment with our intentions, we can create whatever we want. And actually, when we're out of alignment and unconscious, we are creating as well. And we create a lot of our own suffering without realizing it. We can manifest things.
Well, where your energy's going is what you're going to manifest, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, for me, I have a few things, you know. one of the things that I always feel into is everything is according to your conditions, which is something that Dharma would always say to us, say everything is according to your conditions, but I also believe everything is according to your conditions, but your conditions are based on your perspective, your lens on the world. And this is why I really love the polarities in a way of yoga and tantra, and they interlink a lot. But for me, I mean, I'm working into learning more about tantra. That will be one of my big journeys when I go to India. But something that really resonates with me, and I don't know how it resonates with other people who are tantric practitioners, but I feel on a basic level, for me, if you were to say what is yoga and tantra, I asked quite a few people about this, and I went on a breath training that had like 20 people doing a tantra training, and I asked all the teachers and the tantra practitioners that were there learning, what does tantra mean to you? And just like with yoga, if you ask everyone, they'll give you a different answer. But one of the ones that really resonated with me, that Ishiyu was the school founder, said, he said, yoga is the practice of introspection and purification. So yoga, for me, I believe this is the practice of looking inwards and cleaning the lens that you see the world through. And that can be within breath work, that can be within meditation, mindfulness, yoga. And then tantra is, I feel, the practice of connecting to the external through the sense body.
I couldn't agree more.
Through sense, sight, sound, touch, smell. Now, I believe that a lot of people on this earth are existing and they are practicing non-conscious tantra. So they are going, right, I want this, I want food, I want sex, but it's coming from a place of the lens on the world being distorted, and from a scarcity and them needing things outside of themselves to be content and be in bliss. Now, I also meet people who are deep within the yoga and the spirituality, deep within it, and they are beautiful human beings and beautiful souls, and they are chanting mantra all the time, but they're almost off in the ethers to the point where they're not in their human experience.
It's unbalanced.
Yeah, it's unbalanced, and I see these two polarities, and it's almost like ether and earth. With, you know, the yoga practices being the introspection and the ether, and the tantric practices being more the earth, the tangible, but the energetics of that as well. Now, I find this really interesting polarity going on, where I see people that are so beautiful in their spirituality, and they're sending so much beautiful energy out into the world, and they're in so much devotion, but then they're almost they're not necessarily strong in their physicality, or when it comes to the human interaction side of things, they're not so present. And then I see people that are like I was when I was doing all my skating and my weight training and my squash, was in the physical and everything, and I was, you know, all into everything and all this energy was there, but without the spiritual, there was an imbalance.
That's exactly my own story as well, and I'm even only just realising I'm scratching the surface. I keep having this moment where I have a part, like an egoic part that's like, we've got it now. We've got it now. And then something like I was telling you, I lost my uncle, and it just rubbed from under the feet. Meditation teacher who's not even meditating. I do practice total meditation, which is a form of constant mindfulness, but even then, you can be mindfully unconscious.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you do need to be able to sit with stillness just to process everything that's going on. If you negative behaviour patterns arose, and it was like, just hold it. Just bring that holding energy in now, the mother energy. And that's infinite. That will hold it with ease. And that's where this faith and trust comes in again. Now, it is a Who on Earth episode, and it's about you. And I know you love all these different things, but I do want to put the focus back on you.
Okay, cool.
So,
ask me anything. I am open to any conversation.
He was about to do acroyoga. That's where we went.
Oh, thank you for getting us back there. And
well, my job's to do that. You go on your tangents. I go back.
So and then he was teaching us acroyoga after the most disciplined, strictest practice. Acroyoga, everyone's doing acroyoga, and he's running around with a Hanuman monkey mask on, acting like not even acting like a 12-year-old, being his 12-year-old self. And I looked and he's a big advocate for veganism, but he doesn't force or push it onto people.
It's just his belief.
Well, yeah, but what was really interesting was one of the things when you went to the Dharma training, they said, 2 weeks before you come on this training, try and be vegan and try and stick with that throughout the training. And then the first few days when we got there, in the morning we were doing pranayama, so we're doing lots of kapalabhati, lots of this kind of variations of breath work and alternative nostril variations of it. And after a few days, he sat us all down and he said, "Oh, just so you know, like, I'm not judging, but I know that you, and you haven't been being vegan."
You can just tell.
And they were like, how do you know that? And it was from the mucus.
Okay.
It was from the inflammation and from the mucus. And, I didn't want to consciously ever be vegan. I started doing lots of yoga, and then something in me said, stop eating meat. But not even stop, like curiosity went, oh, I wonder what happens if you eat meat. What would it be like? And I felt amazing. And then I went, right, I'm curious now. I wonder what would happen if I eat fish and stopped eating fish. And sushi was was a big deal for me. Stop that.
Like your version of bacon and egg butter.
Yeah. It felt amazing. There was this sushi place in Altrincham at this butcher's that made the most beautiful sushi.
I can see you living it for
delicious. And then stop eating dairy, and I just felt this energetic opening. And I'm not saying everyone should be vegan. From my perspective, this is all my experience, and anything I speak about and land in this podcast, I want people to know I'm not imposing that on anyone.
You're not preaching, you're sharing.
No, I'm sharing my experiences, and the most important thing for me and the path that I'm on, and one of the things I'm cultivating more when I go into India, is a path of non-judgment. I don't believe people are better, worse, good, bad, above or below. I don't believe I am better than anyone or below anyone. I don't believe someone on the street who's homeless, who has like alcohol, like lots of drugs, I do not believe they are below someone who is the holiest yogi. I don't believe that. I feel that we all move through our karmic cycles, and that all of the lessons we learn within our karmic cycles are there to either allow us to expand, or to the suffering we feel will repeat until we integrate it. And it's part of our process. And the tantric philosophies of allowing everything, all the tapestries of emotions, they are all beautiful. There is a purpose for all of them. If you stop and listen, and you stop going, the universe or someone is treating me unfairly, and instead you go, what is this?
It's the Stoic principle. Turn the obstacles into opportunities. They're not mistakes, they're lessons.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. And like the Ganesha mantra of removing the obstacles, but often we put the obstacles there so that we can move around them or move through them, and so it creates beautiful wisdom for us.
So you're doing acroyoga, he's running around in a monkey
Well, and that was just for me. He embodies the wisdom and the playful nature.
That's the best teachers do. They don't tell. They show.
Yeah, and that was the thing with the veganism side of it. I was already vegan, but it really, really, just seeing those things, and I maybe some people's blood types, it might not work for them, but I also believe, I've noticed there's a lot of people that were vegan that are going back to eating meat. I've noticed that
as well.
There's this trend. Now, what I feel like there, I'm not saying that's better or worse, but I believe that anything that you consider to be right, if you start doing it, you will, as a placebo effect, go, yeah, this is much better for me, and I've got more energy and power now. And what I find really interesting,
believe that, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I find really interesting in the world is that science dismisses the placebo effect, and yet it is used in clinical studies. And then you go, right, so the placebo effect proves inherently that we have the capacity to heal ourselves from within with belief. And you go, why is this being dismissed? And I believe it's being dismissed because it's not earning anyone any money.
It's free.
It's free.
So is the breath. So is the yoga. Will you stop giving everybody free ways of healing?
Yeah.
How are we meant to make money?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and we can get around to talking about the barefoot stuff if you want.
I was going to, yeah, so let's bring it up, because I know you've said you've not actually managed to touch on it yet. The way I think of Leo is there with his hoofs. Was it hoofs?
Yeah,
get your hoofs out.
Get you. It's a shame I'm not Scottish. Get your hoofs out.
Well, we have had Amy Proudfoot on. And she was the social queen, wasn't she? It was a child. And that was when I first, obviously I'd seen you doing your acroyoga, and I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Almost a little intimidated. The bloody hell's this guy?
Yeah, you'd be able to do all
but
that.
Then I'm sure I would as well. But also it was just then learning who you were as a character when we went on that walk.
Yeah.
And the hoofs came out, and they were always out.
That walk was so beautiful.
Oh, because that's when I love breathwork since I started doing, like I said, the Wim Hof and this and that. But then when we were beside that water, it was a bit cold, but I'd already learned to embrace that. And then you was welcome, fantastic by the way, breathwork beforehand. I was getting raptor claws and everything. Myofascia, I was releasing, and then there was just something about the way you went about that session. Felt like I was being held, and then that allowed me to receive. I'm only actually just realising now how light was so powerful. I've done powerful breathworks, but I didn't feel safe to receive. So I probably had so much tension and resistance that it stopped the flow of what needed to be processed, whereas you allowed that, and I appreciate that so much. But we're talking about the hoops, so go on, tell us about barefoot.
So I mean, the barefoot stuff, again, this voice in my head that I've had about 4 or 5 times in my life. I went for a hike with my older brother up Snowdonia, and I don't think I'd been up Snowdonia before, or maybe I'd been up once. I'd been up once before, actually, and it was up the train track route, up the basic route, but it's quite showy. And I was at the bottom of that route, and I had my Birkenstocks on and a 25 kilogram rucksack with all my camping gear, because we were camping there overnight.
Okay.
And at the bottom of the route, again, this voice in my head came in and said, take your shoes off. And there was a part of me that was like, no, don't be ridiculous. I went, no, take your shoes off. I said to my brother, listen, Max, I'm going to take my shoes off for this. He said, don't do it. You're going to wreck your feet. You're metal. Don't do it. Oh, God, please. And I said, look, I've got them with me. I'll take them off. If it gets too sore, it's fine. Okay. Took them off. First few minutes of it were quite intense. And the surface was probably the most textured with stone and shale and rock that it could be. But I'd been doing a lot of cold water by then.
Okay, so you'd been, we'll touch on that as well.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of cold water by then, and it taught me everything is sensation. It's your perspective that dictates how the sensation lands in you. I remember feeling that, and rather than resisting the steps, because I think a lot of people, they barefoot walk and then they're resistant to the steps they're taking. They look at the ground below them and they go, oh, I've got to be careful and precarious with the step. And as a result of being precarious, the foot tenses up. As a result of the foot tensing up, what we were talking about, allowing to receive, it's not allowing it to receive the earth, and it's that yang energy of control. Whereas when you soften and you receive the earth, it's entirely different. And I felt the intensity of the sensation, breathed into it. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I was like, this feels really nice now. It feels intense, but it's nice. Anyway, we went up to the top of Snowdonia, went down part of it, camped at a tarn overnight, and then walked back down the next day. 2 days later, my shoulders were really, really sore from carrying this rucksack. My feet felt amazing. And then I went, why am I wearing shoes the rest of the time? If without any barefoot experience, I can go up that mountain. I'd maybe done like one off-piste walk barefoot, but I wasn't walking around barefoot at all. It wasn't a practice of mine at all. And then I went from that to going up Snowdonia and back down, and my feet loved it. And then I started to think about, because I'm a yin yoga teacher and I work into the meridian lines, and we know in yin yoga that so many of the meridian lines, there's 6 meridian lines that wrap around the sole of each foot. And, with the fascial net, it's the same with the fascia. There's these fascial lines that go from the sole of the foot and they connect to all the organs in the body. And I thought, reflexology talks about massaging the feet and giving different organs in the body release or massage. I thought, I'm giving my full body a massage here. And then my feet were really quite wrecked because I'd been rollerblading for so many years professionally, and you wear slightly tighter skates. Okay. And in yoga, my yoga teacher, Perla, always used to laugh at my feet. I'd be in a handstand and my feet would be like wet flannels. I wasn't pointing or flexing at all. It was all upper body strength, no lower body being used, even though my legs were strong. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to wake my feet up. And then over a period of a couple of months, my balance, which was already really good from the slacklining and balance boarding, again completely changed. But I feel like energetically it started to anchor all of my yang energy that I had. It started to allow me to receive the energy from Mother Earth and be in that cyclical nature. And you'll know this, I'm sure, and lots of people have probably talked on this podcast about grounding, but you can hold up to 20 volts of electricity in your body from the different pieces of technology you use. From phones, from laptops, from the wireless signals around you. That 20 volts of electricity that you can hold in your body can cause massive inflammation in your body. Inflammation and acidity are the prime causes of major illnesses in the body. Now, you don't have to walk around barefoot to have these benefits. You can stand barefoot on grass for 30 seconds at the start or the end of your day, or at any point if you're nearby some grass. You know, Michael's a meditation facilitator. You're listening to this podcast, it's likely you've heard these meditations. Just go stand barefoot on grass and take 2 to 3 slow breaths. I started to notice the current leaving my body after a few months. Now when I go and stand on grass, I can feel the current leaving my body, and my nervous system I can feel that my nervous system's in sympathetic. If I've had a really busy, rushed working day, I'll go and stand on the grass and I'll breathe and I'll exhale, and it's almost, I hear the sound of, and it's the presence as well, and it brings you back into presence. So that's a little tip for you, 30 seconds.
Well, you can see the passion because it's clearly had such a profound effect with yourself. Me and Nikki on the episode we just released, she was saying, it's like, Mother Earth, take it off, take the weight away from you.
Learn to receive. We're in such a yang society.
Well, the first time I ever did it, my partner Isabella, who you'll all know from Isabella Nutrition,
Yes.
she kept going on about it, and she was watching documentaries, and I'm thinking, what can just... We even got a grounding mat in the end. I got her a grounding mat because I was like, I know you're interested, but it wasn't for me, it was like, you're interested. And then for my birthday walk, my 30th birthday walk, we went up to Haslingden, and Wizardry, he's walking around barefoot.
Yes.
We're halfway through.
Big shout out.
Definitely. And then he's like, go on, do it, go on, just trust me. And I took my shoes off with Demi as well. And by the time I got to the actual campfire at the end, I just felt peaceful. Just so peaceful. And it was like, hey, there's something in this for sure. And then me and my partner just kept going to Worsley Woods when we lived in Eccles, and we just 10-15 minutes, we're feeling stressed, we need to go ground. And I used to say to her, like, she laughed, like, I was like, this works miracles.
Do you know what I love with this as well? And a couple of things I've noticed, and something 7 months ago, I got really into the Joe Dispenza style of thinking and neuroplasticity and rewiring. And I noticed you said we really needed to. Now, what I love here is, and it's interesting, it's something to observe, and something I observe within myself, and I start to just omit the word need. You chose to go and ground. You empowered yourself by choosing to go and ground. You didn't have to do that. You could have been exactly...
Do you know what's funny? My ego's even going, you teach people that. Need is a survival energy.
Yeah.
And you've just put need to standing on the ground.
Yeah. And you choose. And the thing is, right, this is what I love, and this is when I have these conversations with people. If someone comes to a yoga class and they go, thank you so much, I really needed that. I say, you didn't need this, you chose this. When we say need, we disempower the energy that we're putting into our purpose. We turn it into a thing of scarcity when it wasn't a scarcity thing. We chose to do that. We are always in our choice. And when we take need into the equation, we're stepping out of our power that we are clearly facilitating for ourselves. And it's not even necessarily that we're out of power or not, it's the realization that you are actually in your power.
I'm so happy you brought it up. I'm glad to see that it's still within me to sort of fall back into those habits of need energy. It's like when someone tells me I can't do that, I always go, can't means don't even try.
Yeah.
You struggle to currently.
Yeah.
Massive difference.
Yeah.
And yes, it'll be a bit of a challenge, but it's not calm.
Yeah, and this is why we have these conversations, because I'll have this conversation with you and you'll be illuminating things to me, and when you're speaking, I'm like receiving the nectar of those words. And this is the beautiful thing, right, is that our ego will always go, oh, well, no, I should have known this. The reality of it is that again is that whole thing about yoga and tantra. Oh, you know, we're yogis, of course, we're in our human experience. I fall all the time. I do things where retrospectively I go, wow, like I wasn't in alignment.
It's the point.
How can we find balance if we can never allow ourselves to or observe or be too proud to see where we become imbalanced?
And how attached are you to this egoic identity of I am meditation with Michael? How dare I fall off? How dare I tell people I know? I purposely... I almost bring, I think laughter is very powerful.
Yes.
When I see myself being that serious, I feel I can't tell people a certain truth of myself because they may lose faith in me, and then I come up with this narrative of, and my purpose is to help them, and they won't help. You can see straight away this, oh, what if they don't trust me anymore? It's like, laugh it off. Look how seriously you're taking the game again.
Yeah.
Come back to the breath.
Yeah.
Come back to presence. Where's that coming from? Not even like go and search, just allow it to come to you. Like that's one thing I always teach. Don't go down that rabbit hole of trying to understand things. allow wisdom and insight to come to you. How do we do that? We do it by balancing through the breath. And we just sit with a quiet and relaxed mind. Wisdom and insight will arise naturally in this state.
That deep intuition comes from receiving. And how funny is it that this thread keeps coming in of learning to receive, this yin energy, this letting go of control. I feel our society is gearing everyone to have a real lack of connection with the yin energy, and I'll talk a little bit about that. First thing is the lack of grounding, the less connection to nature, the bombarding of, it's my personal belief that the frequencies that we listen to in music now are dissonant. I don't know if you know, but the solfeggi frequency was 432, do, re, mi, fa, so, and they changed that to 440. Bach created this structure because orchestras supposedly will be able to work together better with it. That frequency is as far away from the natural alignment of nature's frequency as it could be on the spectrum. It's directly in between.
So it's a disconnecting frequency.
It's a dissonant frequency. And so when we hear music that is dissonant, we are surrounded by a lot of different sounds that are dissonant within our industrial world, which is, we are living in this world. So how do you integrate all of these learnings, and how do you, rather than being in scarcity and being like, oh, it's all wrong, but to see these things and to counteract them? We are as disconnected of nature as we could possibly be these days. If you look at the ancient yogis, the Mayans, the Egyptians, they had, we feel like we are more evolved than them. but the evolution has gone to the external, to technology, to things outside of ourselves. Our internal, we have almost de-evolved, I believe, as a human species. We've come away, it's my firm belief, right, that if you are listening to this podcast, please just try this. Try not drinking tap water for a month. Try getting a filter on your water. Do a little bit of research into what natural filters will do in a week, and what they will show you is in our tap water. It's full of fluoride, it's full of calcium, and what that does, actually on a scientific level, if you look it up, high doses of fluoride and calcium calcify your pineal gland. And your pineal gland in, the Egyptians, they worship the pine cone as the pineal gland in their hieroglyphs. They also talked about it as the eye of Ra, the deep seat of intuition. Yogis talk about it as the Ajna chakra, the deep seat of your intuition, where you allow the inner knowing to come in and come through, right? There was a fact that I heard, and I think it might not be exactly accurate, but it was something along the lines of 70% of 17-year-olds in this country have a pineal gland that is already either completely in crystallization or in deep atrophy. Now, your pineal gland sits between your eyes. On a scientific level, it's full of rods and cones, just like your eyes are. Another thing is that it almost sits on a drum skin that picks up all the vibrations of the world around you. Now, scientifically, they say when your pineal gland's crystallized, it affects your melatonin levels. That's the only thing that science talks about. It is my firm belief that if your pineal gland is crystallized, you are a lot more blocked off to your deep sea of intuition and your deeper knowing.
Creative imagination.
Your creative imagination, your inner awareness, that inner voice that will say, this is your truth, right? And what happens when that inner voice switches off? Well, then suddenly the world around you is so much louder and so much more influential. And we are, as a society, taught to consume. It's the nature of the cyclical pattern of our society. Whether it's right or wrong, again, I come back to this non-judgment. It's not about good, bad, better, worse. Yeah, for me, I observe, as a human being in Western society, my identity is dictated by my standing in society based on what I own, whether I have a nice car, whether I have a nice house, what my partner is like, what I do for an occupation, right? These are some of the things, my friendship group, the credibility of my friendship group, all of these things. And of course, our social media world, it shows all the most perfect images of people's lives, and it programs this deep underlying thing that taps into limiting self-belief of you're not enough. You're not enough unless you're doing all of these things.
What does you're not enough mean?
What does you're not enough mean? Well, you need to have more outside of yourself. Not you're not enough, find things within yourself. You're not enough unless you have a new job, unless you have a new car. And then what happens is this scarcity and this fear is created. And then that comes into this, right, well, I have to have this job to earn enough money, to be enough in society, and to have all of these things that is an expectation of society. Now, for me, I have met people who are millionaires, and one person was a billionaire, incidentally, that are deeply unhappy. They've done everything in their life they've ever wanted to achieve, and they're deeply unhappy. And that's because all of the things that they are achieving come from outside of themselves. It comes from their family, their parents, or their other people in their life saying, you should do this, this, and this, and this, or even the subconscious programming, this is what defines success. I have also met people that have nothing, that people would observe through their lens and go, wow, I feel really sorry for that person. They have nothing. God, I feel so sorry for them. How do they live a life like that? And they are in the deepest bliss and joy because within themselves, they are peaceful. They have peace and equanimity within themselves because they are in deep alignment within themselves.
Well, have you heard of it? Forgive my pronunciation, but Diogenes.
No.
So he was a long time talking about Alexander the Great, and he's bathing in the sun, and this man, Alexander the Great, turns up. You've heard of him, I'm sure.
Yes, of course.
Most powerful man. And he says, I've heard of you, I tell you what. And he's just standing in the way of the sun. And he goes, I'll give you anything you want. And he goes, could you move out of the way?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's all he just needed, the sun on his face.
Yeah.
And he was blocking it.
and you know, and talking about the sun, you know, it's something between, I think it's between 7:30 and 9:30. There's a certain kind of sunlight there.
Morning or night?
Morning. Yeah. And it's this occipital vitamin D, I think. It could be occipital, sounds like that. And it's a deep vitamin D that if you sun gaze at that time, you get so many vitamins from it. And if you are bare skinned at that time, and there's all of these things, and you know, the grounding, massively helpful, the reflexology within grounding. From my perspective, the neurological feedback from the brain to the feet. Here's something else in our society, okay? You know, shoe companies like Nike, amazing. They've done all of these things with technology, and this is what happens. The advancement of technology becomes a consumer thing. Now, Nike, I don't know if you've ever seen a documentary called Shoespiracy.
I haven't.
Really interesting. So the
check it out, though, guys.
The guy that owns Nike, he basically did a study on people that didn't know how to run, taught a little peer group how to run, and then decided that they needed a heel lift to run properly, right? And that was how the whole heel lift in running came about. Now, those people had never run before, and it was a very small peer group. And then as a result, they realised, oh, this heel lift, now it's something that we can talk about. It's an extra bit of technology that we can layer, we can land in. And suddenly the shock absorption of shoes, all of this stuff about cushioning and, you know, the technical side of it, the consumerist part of our nature goes, oh, wow, it's got all of this new technology, and we jump on board with it. That makes your feet weak. And then it also makes this heel to toe movement. The foot is not naturally supposed to be doing a heel to toe movement. The feet are supposed to maybe be naturally externally rotated slightly. You look into, there's some brilliant natural running coaches, and they show what someone's running gait was like.
Can you give us a few examples?
I don't know, right? So I'm not an expert in this field, but if you look into natural running gait and you look at videos of people where they were running normally and they had all of these issues in their posterior chain, lower back issues, you know, these conditions, and then they taught them to run differently, and they almost look quite animalistic on these running machines. They've gone from this very linear pattern of movement to this toes out movement. Now, the other thing is if you're taking a linear pattern forwards, running, same mechanism, same gait, that is the equivalent to me of going in a gym and just doing bench presses, shoulder presses, just doing very linear planes of movement. And yes, they have their purpose. These compound movements make you strong on a fundamental, foundational level. What about when you're starting to do different planes of movement? What about when your body wants to work and be strong in other places and other planes? Suddenly, it's outside of that linear gait.
Well, you know Joshua Obazuki, the transfuger.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the guys know him because I'm always advertising it, but he does animal movements.
Yes.
And it's all about making the body move.
I teach that in power yoga.
There we go then.
Yeah, I really, it's the cross hemisphere movement, and that opposite arm, opposite leg
it's
movement.
Like lizard. We were doing it at the Nourish to Flourish Street doing lizard, and then we've got like the bunny rabbit.
That's literally a massive part of when I teach facilitate power yoga, because we used to have animal movement a block, and then they took it out because it was a little bit of an alien concept for a lot of people.
Okay.
And then I went, okay, I'm putting that into power yoga because I know how valuable it is, and I know how it builds strength and integrity in an intelligent way. Now, we're being taught and conditioned to think about aesthetics and to think about linear planes of movement within, basic gym hypertrophy training and running. And while it's beautiful and valuable in some ways, if you look into calisthenics, if you look into gymnastics, and then if you look into animal movement, and you see these incredible movers, Ido Portal, good example, and he's experimented with Ido Portal, maybe my pronunciation's wrong, he's experimented with so many different styles of movement, and then suddenly he's doing stuff with tennis balls for coordination and things. He is the most versatile, incredible mover. You could put him in any environment and he would move beautifully, but more so, there's a mindfulness to it. Whereas actually, heel lift, we're disconnecting from the earth even more. All of this technology and layers, even layers are new technology of layers. Oh, we've got this extra special technology with this layer that is disconnecting us from nature. Society and consumer are disconnecting us from the yin energy. As human beings in our Western world, we have severely neglected the yin, the feminine energy, the energy of learning to receive, the energy of yielding, the energy of being in faith.
Okay, we're going to stop there. End of part 1. There's a lot to digest, I know. But wow, can you see why I was excited? The amount of knowledge and experience that Leo has is just, it's next level. So I'm going to let you digest all that. If you want to go and check him out in the meantime, he's probably doing some immense retreat somewhere where it's breathwork or cold water or whatever it is he's doing there with the sound. I'm going to put the links for Leo in the description. Go check it out. Go see what he's about. And then whilst you're waiting for episode 19, part 2 of my conversation with Leo, why not go check out, say, Amy Proudfoot from the previous one where I first met Leo, a good friend of his, Willpower. That's also there in episode 9. And then we've got Nikki Cohen, we've got Wizardry, all these people who have this different way of looking at life, this more fulfilling way where they've created space to become more. Now, any likes, any shares, subscribe. It's going to make my life so much better. It's going to make your life so much better. There's going to be more guests coming up, more shares, more information, more love, more expansion. It's what it's all about on Who on Earth. And go check out Transmute. I've been with Mr. Joshua Obazuki, who runs that today, and we were having a meeting, and some of the stuff that's coming up, like, for example, the Juice and Flow retreat, where it's a juicing retreat, which, funny enough, I'm doing a 3-day juice right now in preparation. And there's going to be Isabella Nutrition. Links for her as well will be in the description. And then there's going to be Joshua Bazuki, there's going to be Samantha who's doing yoga, and I'll be doing meditation up in this Welsh valley where there's a secret beach and nature. So that's why I'm telling you to go check out Transmute. Plus the Aaron Yarnies, and you saw the advert. And anything else that you need to do with your life, put it on hold, take a moment, let yourself just be exactly as you are. Otherwise, guys, until next time, peace and love.